meditation's only goal is to move us in our daily lives to a place of greater freedom, in our real lives, in the everyday, non-holy, every detail. And of course that's not only on the outside, it's also on the inside. It's to give us greater freedom in the aspects we feel about ourselves which we don't like and we don't want, and which we kind of squeeze away. We squeeze it and we try and put it away to give us more freedom, which brings more energy, more health, more easiness, more softness, less suffering. So our mind is deeply programmed to select in terms of either or. So now I'm meditating, now I'm not meditating. Now I'm in a spiritual place, now I'm in the real place. Now I'm asleep, now I'm awake. We separate experience into great polarities. Now I'm alive, later I'll be dead. We make everything like either or, either or, either or, in our thinking processes. And this is so deeply ingrained as a mental program, the either or, this, or it's one or it's zero, or it's black or it's white, or it's left or it's right, or it's good or it's bad, or I like or I don't like. It's so deeply ingrained that it actually splits our energy. So, or we're happy or we're sad, or we're meditating or we're not, or we're holy or we're human. We divide our... It's really true, you know. One of the big questions in... it's silly from one perspective, but one of the big questions in the spiritual world, international, is what about human? As if it had been forgotten, as if it could ever be forgotten, as if it's not part of the spiritual, as if it's the opposite of the spiritual. As if there's somehow a conflict going on there between spiritual and human. I say junk both. Forget about spiritual, forget about human, just live. So we chose stillness firstly because it's a extremely apparent and known entry point to a space beyond the physical and within the physical. But it's a space where the physical will not contract. It cannot contract. It won't entangle us. Also, partly because it's such an important aspect of experience, stillness, or of the isness of life, the universe, that it comes forward through teachings and then it begins to appear like it's somewhere else. Like we are 99.9% human and there is this tiny little bit of stillness. A state which we can reach. Did I make it? Where is it? Let me get there. Was I there? Was I in stillness? This kind of like it's other than what we actually are. And it seems really, really important to reclaim, to re-invite the movement really into stillness, in the sense that it's not in an either-or position of or we're in stillness, or we're living, or we're in stillness, or we're moving. The art is to find the stillness in the movement, to find the stillness in the riot, to find the stillness in the pain, to find the stillness in the joy, to let it be also here as part of who we are. Not to release the unconscious chucking out of stillness to the other place, to the graveyard. So in this, together with meditation, it's not something that stops when you open your eyes. It's not something that stops when you move into life. It's not something that stops when you're emotional. It's always here. The difference is that while our feelings and moods are changing, and we can feel holy and we can feel grim, horrible, that's all changing. The stillness doesn't change. It doesn't change, but it's not fixed either. It's not frozen. And that's where coming together, in a way, when we come into this room, we're already moving inside ourselves. We leave, physically at least, we leave our lives outside the door. It's like moving inside yourself individually. We move into the room, we're choosing to move into a space where most of the entanglements of the regular life is, we can let it go for now. It's like moving inside a big body. Like, we shut the door, we close our eyes, in a way, even though we're still here talking. And that gives us a chance to unhook or to let go of the roots of what's bothering us out there, to create more space. But what the conscious mind is doing when it selects and it says, I look this way and not this way, and I see sunshine and I don't see shadow, is it's trying to fixate something into a position that it can feel in control. I decide what I look, I decide what I feel, I choose. This is where the binary mind begins, with this first newborn, in a way, awakened consciousness in the human. And it also does this with moods, with atmospheres. So while it can like unhook from a circumstance and a happening and this morning and all of this, what's more subtle is the frozen mood, the frozen inner mood, like a slight depression or a feeling of unworthiness, or a slight feeling of not being okay, something's wrong, something is not going to be okay, apprehension, anticipation of disaster. These moods, it's not stillness. It's more still than the happening in the kitchen and the car driving, but it's still, it's not stillness. It's a subtle form of holding that consciousness holds. It's an unconscious, energetic holding of a state of being. And if that was stillness, then it would be easy to understand why we would rather go jogging than rest in that discomfort, the discomfort of this state. If that was the bottom line of reality, these moods. And so these less moving states, these moods, these inner atmospheres, tend to throw us out into the world of entanglement, out of meditation. You know, we can meditate when we're driving, we can meditate when we're washing up, we can always be with the full resource of sleep, just feeding us from the back door. It's always now. The full resource of before we were born, of when we will die, it's all here now. But these states are so uncomfortable sometimes that, and we identify them because they're not really moving as stillness, that we seek distraction. Better watch a movie where I see my state moving, embodied in some horror show, or at least there's movement. The freezing of an atmosphere like this inside ourselves is a very subtle form of identification. It's like saying, this is home, this is me. This is known. You can identify what is known with what is known. It feels safe. Even if it's horrible, it feels known and safe. Almost it can feel like this is real. So when some people talk about real life, daily life, the real life, they're talking about that. So identification says, this is me. This is mine. Also home says, this is me, this is mine. So it's a subtle beast. It says mine, mine. And when we are, before we are born, and we are in this place of total stillness, much more apparent stillness, that movement of care in a way gets contracted in mind. There's something recognized in the atmosphere here, the atmosphere of the family that we're drawn into, or the neighborhood, or the city, which is, we identify, we say mine. And we go vroomf into a layer of form, which isn't a bad thing. But it's, this mine has care in it, there's a purpose in it. I care, mine. But the identification continues because of what we're born into, the form of the mind, what we're taught. So we're born, for example, there's a family there, and it's in a particular karmic lesson here, for example, about control and about conformity, about keeping everything in order. It's a state of evolution of the mind. It's totally, that's why this lesson is. And so we, coming in, feel the suffering in that. We feel the nature of the contraction. We feel the atmosphere of it, and we say mine, and we go in to it. And then we've got it full blown. And then the family affirms it. This is reality. This is how it is. And the whole mechanism, it grows up around it. This whole form grows up around it. It's not just mine, it's ours. This is reality. But that same atmosphere has probably been going on in this family for generations and generations and generations and generations, just until somebody realizes it. And it's not ours, really. We are the one that was in stillness. Something moved into the mind, took this atmosphere, this situation into the stillness, and then forgot the stillness, which never gets lost. So stillness isn't anywhere else, ever. It's utterly closer to home than home. This whole atmosphere, at the very core of ourselves, the sense of our own atmosphere, of our own being, depends on stillness to even be. In the same way that the clouds in the sky depend on the infinity of the sky. You can't have clouds without a sky. But we see, if the clouds were like just absolute in their own right, they are what matters, and there's a whole universe above our heads, and we believed that, we would be very confused. The stillness is the 99.9%. But in our care and in our love, we got confused in the mind into thinking that this is what we are, this happening, this movement, this push, this pull. And what's more, if I move this way, I'll break my mother's back. If I move this way, my father will fall down a hole. We think we are responsible for the whole balabalaroo that's going on for generations, for the atmosphere, for everything. We make it ours. We think it's all up to our conscious choice. And our conscious choice is just the tip of the iceberg of what we are. It's a nothing, this conscious mind. It's really like the glinting of it's not even the happening. The happening happens, like we go in a meditation and we move, something moves inside us. We have a ceiling here of like a mirror, and it reflects what happens. That's the best we get from the mind, a reflection of what happened before. And then we say, oh, I'm in a good place, I'm moving into some kind of stillness, but it's like it's reflected. It's not an end point, it's just a reflection at that stage. And in meditation, what's important to realize is this is where we split. We split because this is what we think is the experience. On our ceiling of our consciousness, we see a reflection of our life moving through our sensory perception, and we think this is it, if we like it. And if not, we argue with it. But what's already happened is a split between our mind and our body. We're cut off from the life which is our body. Let's make no mistake about it. What's alive here is the body. Nothing else, not the thought. Not the philosophy, not the concept. The only thing which is alive in this room is our bodies. And our bodies move before and react and respond before anything hits the mind. So are we two lives? We have this life, the one that consciously thinks it's in control, and there is this body which by itself will move with such an intelligence, like with the ping pong game. You just surrender and it does its thing. You try and kind of decide where the ball is going to come from, you lose. So part of this guided meditation was aiming to draw a submission of the mind in just attending. See that your feet are alive, all by themselves, without us doing anything. Our physical bodies have more life than any emotional state. No matter how deep it feels, the atmosphere of our family home, the life which is in your body now is much more real. And it's not a fixed thing at all. It's moving so fast, so intelligent. And this the mind tries to freeze. And because it can't freeze something which is so incredibly alive, it separates. So I have the experience of having a body. Rather than just trust the body, the body is panicking, let it panic. Listen, it's trusting, trust it, let it. It's just energy. It knows better than we do. When the mind can be humble enough towards the physical, about which it knows absolutely nothing, even on the highest level of science, it knows sod all about the miracle of the physical, of physical matter, let alone of biology. Really very little. So when the mind is humbled before the body, then it can begin to really serve us. It can begin to really help. Meaning, when the body begins to react in a certain way, it can say, relax. It's also, you can be calm together with the contraction. Because short of total peace and bliss and happiness and joy in the body, The rest is contraction. The rest is kind of what stress does is it closes down possibilities. It narrows vision. It freezes. And the mind, in its habitual program, will say, or it's contracted or it's relaxed, either or. It needs to learn to reprogram itself to say, okay, there's a massive contraction here. I'm suffering like hell. I'm in hell. And also, I can be relaxed. Both. Now, how would that feel to be like in your own worst nightmare and to relax at the same time? To the mind, it sounds a little bit cuckoo. But the beautiful thing about our mind is that it's open, ever curious. So the invitation is to check this. Is it possible to experience fear and relax at the same time? Is it possible to be completely stressed and also relaxed? The greatest damage we do ourselves is with this either-or thinking. I'm stressed now. This is my God, stress. The moment we have the possibility of and this, and stillness, which is all-encompassing, and happening, activity, action, both at the same time, then something else comes to life, a greater intelligence. Because we automatically then, even if it's just for a moment, are training our minds to move beyond this very primitive binary structure of it has to be one or the other. It's me or you, us versus them. And that's what we're here for. We're living in an environment where the incredible investment and creation and projection of reality is based on the 1% of happening, of action, of movement, of doing, of controlling. It's really an insane environment we're living in right now for the purpose of helping the evolution of mind, which is just at the beginning. It's a physical thing which is just at the beginning of evolving. Its possibilities are endless. As a reflector, as a transformer, as a one that understands. But you can't understand anything unless you open up to it, like the body. Stillness is in every atom, 99%. Every atom, every molecule. It's there. It can easily, and often it's when we're least trying, we're in it all the time. There's no question about it. There's nothing to get. We are it. It can be easily accessed in every single experience. Often, and this is a crazy phenomenon, when things go really, really wrong, like accident scene, all the shit hits the fan, as they say in English, like everything's flying in all directions, we become very still, because we can't hold on anymore to the happening. It's too crazy, so the stillness comes forward. It's not like it comes from the outside, though. That's our program. We think this grace of stillness comes from the outside. We even see ourselves as other. We don't realize it's us. In all this breakage, this is us. We're not the thing that broke. And that's the courageous part of it, to dare to allow that we could be that. It looks like nothing. It's absolutely not nothing. It can sound, stillness like a corpse, it's dead. But it's not. It's also not an end point. It's not like my stillness is his stillness is your stillness. There is no end to the subtle vibrations of stillness, of what there is to explore there if you listen to the stillness. if you find it through your taste, if you find it through the whole natural environment, always here, in everything. It has so many different subtle vibrations which don't depend anymore on the physical, gross physical world.
Can I say something? Because the difficulty in this is we experience life through our body. So it's easy to make a difference between life and death. And I think my mind is, when I'm meditating with my eyes closed, without seeing and so on, I make my mind as a bridge to something I can't let loose because because I experience life through my body. I have to do something. It's so difficult because my body is there is something who is programmed on survival of the body. So I have to acknowledge that when I don't have a body anymore, life's going on. And that's a nice idea, but my body is doing something else. So I recognize what you say about stillness because I notice there is stillness. And that's my last struggle, to let that go. That I can't.
The survival.
To understand not with my mind, but through experience, that there is no difference between life and death, because there is no life and death. There is just this.
Yeah. So are you very afraid of death?
What do you say?
Are you afraid of death?
Yeah, I'm still afraid of.
The body is afraid.
Die, but on the other hand, I know because of my meditations, it's not true.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So. Knowing something is not true is a good guide to remind yourself and all of this, but that doesn't mean that the belief that life doesn't end with my body is enough to relax the whole system. So a body which is in survival is constantly on the edge of death.
Mm-hmm.
It's perceiving a death threat. And the mind says that's because I'm taking care of the body, because I don't really believe this belief that life it goes on even if this body dies. Yeah, I believe it when I'm in Haren in the workshop, but come on, dead is dead, right? So what's the way to check this out? Because there is no source of any truth at all except you.
Yeah,
so the way to check it out.
I do it every evening. I let it go, but and I like.
I wasn't going to say to do it every evening and let it go.
What do we say?
I wasn't going to say the way to check it out is to do it every evening and let it go.
Okay.
The way to check it out is to really, really experience through the senses, through the physical senses, the threat. To really allow the senses to relax, which means they open, and let the threat come in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not at the moment of your death, not when there's a danger coming. All of this is imagination. The future doesn't exist. The art is to give permission, not to death, but to the body to be alive. While it's in one form, one piece.
Yeah.
So what is sense perception? What is coming in through the senses? And where's it going to?
It's a puzzle, because what I'm sensing all the time is some I'm not saying it well, but it feels like some frequencies of action, and I know they are floating on the stillness. I know, but stillness is like going to die at the moment, and then there's action, and then there's stillness, and there's action and stillness, and it feels like for me, stillness is not still. I hear something else, but pure stillness is like a dot, and then there's something else.
And is there ever a time when there is the dot and there's something else together? To be stillness, to be still.
Yeah.
At the same time that there is whatever level of frequency or vibration or noise, both at the same time.
Yeah, it is.
To stay. Yeah. So why does it bother?
It's puzzling me.
So don't be puzzled. Because in the puzzling you're grasping hold of the frequency.
Yeah, I don't.
You're not releasing. If you can allow the stillness to be there together with the happening, and realize that you are not the happening, which is changing all the time. What you see is changing. Where you go is changing. Time is changing. All of this is changing all the time. Totally unstable. Yes. And on a subtle level, there's a frequency and there's a hum and there can be a buzz in the ears. Or also not stable. You're not. The problem is with identity. The stillness isn't there. It's who you are.
Yeah, but the mind is wants to set the world still. Overlook and then go on.
Don't do that.
So,
don't do that.
But it's funny also. Do that.
You can do that for as long as you like, but it comes down to a really simple formula for stillness, which is don't grasp, don't push away. It sounds so simple, but the more we just don't do that, don't grasp and don't push away. And even if something is reflexively pushing away, don't take part in it. Just let it happen.
Action can really take care of itself. We don't need to interfere.
Oh, dat is mooi.
In a very, very deep sense, it's not our problem, our person, who we are, what we carry.
It's
our
not
body.
A problem.
It's not our problem.
Wat doen we hier dan?
It's just a chain reaction. It's a chain reaction inherited from your mother and your father and his mother and his father and on and on and on. And it's all going along in this big Maya blob by itself. And we can be of service to it only if we sit outside and let it. It's got its own intelligence. Everything, every single horror is there to serve this. to fix, to heal. Everything is to heal. It doesn't look like it when we believe we are it. When we believe we are dying, that's the only death, when we believe that we are something which can die. Then we die. I've met people who will die. People who are so deeply identified with their person which they are, that they will die. The death knell is dinging, bong, 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 all around them, because they will experience the death of this form. It's terrible.
But they won't die.
The person will die, for sure, it will die.
Yeah.
Every one person in this room is dying by every moment. In fact, it doesn't even exist to start off with.
That's really what I meant.
Except in our minds. You know?
I meant layered beneath that. But anyway.
Beneath that, death is a crazy concept. It's just... The very fear of death is based on this either-or thinking. Beginnings and endings. It's based on a belief in time. And it's not even a rational belief in time. Because if you really accept time, you see that you were born, and the moment you were born, you are going to die. So this is a cycle. What's born dies. What dies gets born. What born dies. You see it throughout the whole of nature. But our mind is so fixated on grasping in such a way that it can say, here it begins, here it ends. That it creates its own death. And then it believes it is this person, which it builds in its fantasy land, which is never good enough, or else the world isn't good enough for it. And then it's afraid that it's going to die, but it knows damn well it's going to die. It's afraid of the stranger, because the stranger is different from it, which means that it isn't, it can be criticized. It's alone. Then it has this incredible movement into self-pity. I'm going to die. I'm so alone.
I'm so depressed. Oh, help me.
Nobody loves me.
It's true.
I don't want anyone to love me. It's like, I don't love me. You know?
But you said, if you just let it, then it will
Fix itself.
Fix itself.
Or die.
Yes.
And it can hurt when it dies. It can really, really, really hurt when the person begins to die. It's really like a death experience. It's three-dimensional agony.
How can it fix itself then?
Dying.
No. You say if you have a problem, or if you all the things, if you just let it, then it will fix itself. I mean, can you say something more about it? How does it
Is it
work?
okay if I give an answer? You know, if you look to nature,
What are we? That's what I thought. What are we doing then? We're always
We're
looking.
We're
and
undoing.
here
The
to
art
fix
is
this.
to-
I am here to fix problems.
Exactly.
All
Don't
the time
do.
busy.
No doing. No.
doing. So what is
I
therapy?
really like.
What's therapy? Therapy is giving space to a
Yeah.
conflict to be there, and by giving space to the conflict to be there, it starts to resolve itself. Like nature is constantly in a process of healing, refinement. If we let nature just be and we don't interfere, a perfect balance will come forward. We are part of nature. So if we just allow action, the action will by itself start a movement of healing, integration, balance. If we interfere with it, if we grasp it, then it has to become something. And the agenda of it, what it has to become already, is pushing it in a direction which is not attuned. It's only attuned to the mind. It's not attuned to the sheer nature we are part of. There is a natural movement of healing and care through the physical. In the physical we can absolutely trust. Even when we get sick, the symptoms we have are symptoms in the symptoms of the healing of the body. You understand? Of course, you know, when you get cancer, you have a feeling, why me? and what's happening inside. And I'm going to die from this, maybe. But also here is a whole process, and if you can just let the action be, maybe you will die. It's not about life and death. It's about the whole process which takes place, which is much more precious as this.
And it's allowing the process, but it doesn't mean you don't do anything. In the end.
Exactly, it's not kind of
You're
that
allowed to
you...
go to a doctor when you
Exactly,
are in this process.
absolutely. Yeah.
You don't need to sit
It's
on your
not that
hands.
it's not that you become a spare prick at the wedding. And don't in your own life. Of course you can take action, but the problem is not action with an agenda and grasping or resisting, but moving with the body. Is exactly what Georgi says. The mind can follow the intelligence of the actions which are coming forward through the body. And in the body, we can follow this, then, all actions in the end will move into harmony.
With grasping and aversion, not doing can be aversion. That's a contraction. Okay, I'm not going to do anything, so when we're saying don't do, it's not, we don't mean that, it's meaning let it be for real, just be truthful to what is there. It's that simple. We put this momentous consequence, partly because we are traumatized by guilt, collectively. Partly this is religions doing it. We got chucked out of the Garden of Eden and we're here as a punishment. So it's kind of sanctified guilt even, that the world is terrible and we have to fix it. But we don't know who we are. All of this is part of the package of coming into an incarnation, in a way. This collective feels. And so what this means is that in the doing, we put an incredible consequence, very grandiose without doing. So we torture ourselves in the mind to do the right thing. And this is where it really goes cuckoo, because basically we're living in multiple dimensions. So it's like walking in a forest. An endless forest. This is Maya land. It's an endless forest. It goes on and on and on. There's no way that we can take care of this whole forest, not a chance. And we come to a junction and we can turn left or right. And it's like, oh my God, if I turn left, then I'll die. And if I turn right, I'll be saved. And maybe I'll never get there. And we are the universe. We are the miracle. And on one level, we are the forest. The whole show infinitely. On another level, it doesn't matter if we turn left or right at all. Anyway, it's going to rain on us. It's like a whole other dimension is playing out, much more at course. Anyway, the world's going to turn. Anyway, the forest is there. It really doesn't matter. But what does matter is to be awake. Doesn't matter if we turn left or right, but be awake with every step. It's a different direction. What's the point in going anywhere if you don't notice the trees and you don't notice the way, and it's all about getting there and you don't actually know where there is? I mean, this is how silly the mind is. What's the point in that? It cannot be solved on that level. Well, we could for hundreds of years walk around in circles, never experiencing the forest at all. Or the rain.
Or the sun, sometimes.
I like rain.
Can I say something? Is stillness the same as awareness? I experience this as a kind of field in which you are, and everything you feel, you think, your body is moving through this. It's like, is this for me stillness?
No,
Yeah, okay. And I have a conflict with the mind. It's always interfering. And it's like happenings going through this awareness field. Then I'm here and there. Sometimes I don't know where I am. And then the mind comes through, and I always have to tell the mind, no story, no story. Is this what you're meaning, I can't put the mind to a stop. It's always... But I can say, I don't listen anymore.
I don't believe
I
you.
let it be, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
Quite,
Yeah. So in this 2 days we're working quite a lot with the sense perceptions and the elements, which is kind of the building blocks of our reality, in a way, to support the letting go of the mind, which is identity. So it's totally possible to come to a position where there is this vast stillness, which is experienced by the body and by the heart as awareness. But still, the stillness is there, irrespective of the body and the mind. And then, to drop a layer deeper and to be the stillness, at the same time, to be this vast, unified stillness, at the same time that the body moves through it, and all its happenings and doings, and to watch. But you don't have to watch either, just to be the stillness. Now, this is something to be experienced, because it's a paradigm shift. It's like you're not the thing. It's totally the other way around. And in the dance of life and in the art of living, it's always the mind is following. So for a while the mind believes it is its anger, and the mind is its frustration, and the body is hungry. But by degrees, the center point, the orientation, the home, becomes this vast space of pure potential, where everything is possible and that nothing is really needed, which is really totally free. And not free in a sense of like separate from. It's inside the detail. It's inside the pain of your client. It's inside.
And it's not empty. I thought it was empty, but it isn't.
It's empty of stuff.
Yes, but it's not empty.
To the
It's
mind,
empty of
it's empty.
separation.
And again, we're still talking about it as it, but we are that. There is one purpose to being here. It's not to get great grades at school or to have a successful marriage, there is no other purpose but to awaken. That's a big job in this body, with this mind, with this history. The awakening is the whole purpose of being here. It's what gives instant fulfillment. All that fulfillment we strive for, all that love, all that peace, it delivers it all instantly. We don't care anymore how long we live or what happens or what this, what that. Okay. What?
What? I'm just touching you. It's time.
And what you said about stillness not being still, it's not really still. It's a faster vibration. So what can happen is that it seems like we slow down the more we move into stillness, because from that perspective of being stillness, this vibration is very slow when we become one with a faster vibration. It's like the wheel of a car, you know. When it's spinning, at first it's going fast, and then it seems to go backwards, and then it's still. It's like a silk where it's so finely woven that it seems to be totally smooth. It's so alive. And we think it's really worthwhile. It's really incredibly helpful for living in these times. And not privately, but of service. In stillness, it's the same thing.
"15 minutes break and then we're going to meditate."